Welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska, where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Saturday, June 8th, 2024. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. I will have links to the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. I have a few finished objects to share with you all today, which I am super excited about. The first of which is this baby blanket that I have been working on for the past couple of episodes. And it is a pattern that I got from this booklet called Sweet Baby Blankets by Leisure Arts. And this was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Carlin. And it is the cover photoed blanket. It is called, I don't know, I don't remember. It is called Baby Flowers Blanket. So I loved making this pattern. The motifs are so fun, I think. I really enjoyed the process of making these motifs, and I think they're so beautiful. And yeah, I just loved the process of making this blanket so much. So I believe last time I recorded an episode, there are a total of 9 rows on this blanket, and I had made 6 of the 9 last time, I believe. So I had 3 more to go. So it is worked. I worked it anyway. I pieced it together from the bottom up, I guess. Is kind of how I thought about it. And it worked out really well. I just love the looks of it. I think it's so pretty. I love the colors and how they worked out together, and I just think it has made such a beautiful baby blanket. I did have to make a bit of modification as far as the color placement, because the original pattern, if you can tell on the photo, calls for only 3 colors to be used within the flower motifs, but I didn't have enough of a 3rd color, so I had to use a 4th color, and for some of the motifs, I switched out 2 colors. So I had enough of the light pink and the light green color. So those are in every motif, but then the darker pink and the darker green colors, I switched every other motif. The yarn that I used is Deramores Anti-Pilling Deramores Studio Anti-Pilling DK, and the different colors I used are blush, lime, olive, and rose for the motifs, and then the joining color that I used is called powder. Those are DK weight 100% acrylic yarns. I used a G 4mm hook for this project, which I believe is what is called for in the pattern. I did do the joining differently than what the pattern calls for, so I joined my motifs together as I crocheted along using a slip stitch method into the adjoining stitch, and that worked out really well for me. And then I also modified the border. In the original pattern, you can maybe see in the picture that the, oops, that was Carlin's note, I think. Oh no, that's a note for my daughter. Anyway, let's see. The border on here doesn't lay very flat. As you can kind of see, it's really ruffly. It's more of a scallop border. And I could just kind of tell in the photo that it laid kind of, it didn't lay flat. But I tried it anyway, just to see if mine would also not lay flat or if it would look okay. And I did the original border, but it was really ruffly and didn't lay flat, and I just felt like it looked sloppy. So I decided to not keep that, and I just did my own thing. So for the top and bottom of the blanket, where it has the zigzag type, edging here, I did what you would maybe more of a typical zigzag pattern that you would find in a typical zigzag crochet blanket. So I just did double crochet stitches, US terms, along each of the edges, I ended up making 9 double crochet stitches along each edge here. And then at the peak of each little area, I did 5 double crochet stitches in the peak. And then down at the bottom of the valley, I skipped a couple of stitches in between where those motifs were joined together. And that worked out well so that it lays fairly flat. And then along the edges, I just did plain double crochet stitches, and that worked out really well. I kind of just played around, trial and error, to see what would help it to lay as flat as possible. I find that with crocheted borders, it's never perfect, but I just kind of trial and error until it lays as flat as it can be, especially with half motif. With half motifs, they don't tend to have just a perfectly straight edge whenever I work them up anyway. So anyway, I just did the best I could, and I'm happy with how that looks on the edge. It's not a perfectly straight line, but it's pretty close. So anyway, I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. I think it's so sweet and beautiful, and I think it will make a really nice baby gift. I don't know who this will be going to. Per usual, I just love making crocheted baby blankets, and I just hang on to them until it's appropriate to gift them to a family that has gotten a new baby in their family. I started this blanket on April 8th, and I finished it on May 27th. And I think that covers everything. Oh, mine measures a bit smaller than the original pattern. So my blanket measures 32 inches by 37 inches, and in the original pattern, it's supposed to be 38 inches by 41 inches. So mine's quite a bit more narrow, about 6 inches more narrow and about 4 inches shorter, but I still think it's a great sized baby blanket. So I'm very happy with that. So pretty. As always, I just enjoy making baby blankets so much. They're just a nice small project that's, you know, not overwhelming, and I love playing with different colors and patterns, and it's fun for me. So I have another finished object that I didn't even start. I hadn't even started last time I recorded, and I've already finished it, and I'm wearing it. It's this shirt. So I knit this top since I last recorded. It is called the Verbena by Melissa LaBarre. And I started it on May 25th and finished it on June 1st. So it took me just a week to make, so it was nice and quick. I used some yarn that was gifted to me by another viewer of this channel named Isabella. It is I Love This Cotton in the Sprinkle Me This colorway. And it is so fun. It's just a light gray color, but then it has these super fun neon speckles in it, or like tweedy bits. And it was so much fun to work with. I enjoyed it so much. This yarn is 83% cotton, 8% acrylic, 7% viscon, and 2% polyester. Worsted weight, and so it just worked up so quickly, and I enjoyed it so much. So this is a paid-for pattern. It is knit from the top down. The original pattern calls for US 7 needles. I didn't do a gauge swatch. I just went down to US 6 4mm needles because I tend to be a loose knitter. All of the sizes for this pattern start, the yoke is basically knit exactly the same no matter what size you're knitting for the beginning. So the smallest size just splits for sleeves sooner than the bigger sizes, I guess. I intended to make the medium size according to my measurements, but even going down a needle size, I still had a looser gauge than what the original pattern called for. The original pattern called for 20 stitches to 4 inches for the gauge, and mine ended up being 18 stitches to 4 inches. So after I knit through the yoke, I realized that it was already going to be big enough for me, and I decided just to follow the small size instead of the medium size, so that I would get the fit that I like. But anyway, it was super easy and fun to make. The lace pattern in the yoke here was very easy, but you know, it was fun to make. It wasn't too difficult, and I think it's very beautiful. I was a little concerned that the neckline would be a bit too wide, but I think it works really well. It just has this garter stitch section throughout the rest of the yoked section, and then it just goes into plain stockinette until you get down to the hem, which is also a garter stitch hem. And then you do go back to the sleeves and pick up stitches and just knit a couple more rounds before binding off the sleeves. I did pick up a few extra underarm stitches when I did my sleeves, just 3 extra stitches in the underarms, just give myself a little bit more room in the arm circumference, and that worked out really well. I also went down to a 3.5 millimeter needle for my garter stitch hem, just to prevent any flaring at the hemline. I didn't want it to flare out at all, and I thought, well, I'll just go down to a 4 to really tighten up my stitches around the hemline, because at that point I knew that my gauge was a lot looser than what the original called for. Well, not terrible, 2 stitches off, but it adds up, you know. Anyway, but I'm still really happy with the gauge. I don't think it's too loose, you know, for a summer top that I today have it over a dress. I'll stand up in a minute so you could, or I'll back up, I guess, in a minute so you can see it more fully. But anyway, well, you know, a lot of times I'll be wearing it over a dress like I am today, but I could wear it, I think, without anything underneath it as well. So I don't think it's too loose to do that. It still, I think, provides plenty of coverage for my taste anyway. Let's see, I think that covers it. I think I covered everything, so I'll just back up a little bit so you can see better. Works for me to kneel, I think, so you can see the full length of it. I did shorten the body by 2 inches as well. The original called for you to go to 13 inches from the underarm before you did the hemline, and I only went to 11 inches before I did the hemline because I just like the length of it. So it hits me basically right on my hips. My natural waist is about here. So it still is plenty long in my opinion. I think I might be a little bit short waist, like my torso is a bit short for my proportions, I think, maybe. So it usually works out for me to shorten my tops. And like I said, I a lot of times wear them over dresses, so it just looks nice to have it not be too long, I think. I did try this on with some dress pants as well though, and I think it looks nice with dress pants as well, so I will probably wear it that way as well. I want to turn around and show you the back. There is a bit of a seam or a line that you can see when when you start a new row, you switch from, when you're doing the garter stitch section, you switch from knitting to purling every other row. So there's a bit of a line you can see down the middle of the back, but I think it's okay. Then I can easily tell the front from the back, but it isn't a seamless transition if you can see it along the back here. But otherwise the yoke is just like the front. There's no short row shaping or anything in this pattern. So the front is exactly like the back, except for that seam. But I don't mind it. I think it's fine. Anyway, I'm super happy with how this turned out, and it was, yeah, just really fun to be able to work up another summer top to have in my wardrobe. All right, those are all of my finished objects. I did want to give an update on one of my projects that I shared on my last episode. I had made these little Rainbow Ripple baby blanket dishcloths. So I used the Rainbow Ripple baby blanket pattern by Celeste Young, but I just only did 12 rounds. I used fingering weight Knit Picks comfy fingering yarn and a 3.5 millimeter needle to make these little dishcloths. And I just wanted to give you all an update on how they are working. I haven't used this one. This is the only one I haven't used yet because I wanted you to be able to see the difference once they're used and washed. You know, I haven't measured this. Let me get a measuring tape. So the original dishcloth measures about 11 inches from tip to tip, from one point to the next in diameter. And now this is one that I have, this is by the way in the honey colorway. This yarn is 75% Pima cotton and 25% acrylic. And this is done in the white colorway. And so this one has been used and washed. And maybe you can tell, I don't know if you can tell, but once they're washed, they don't, they have a bit more ruffle to them once they're, because I just washed it and dried it, of course. It's not too bad. It still lays pretty. It is just a dishcloth, so what does it really matter? But the thing that has majorly changed with this cloth after washing and drying it is that it shrunk, which I should have assumed it would do. It didn't shrink terribly, but it's a little bit shorter or smaller than it was originally. Let's see if there's a measurable difference. So it shrunk about 1/2 of an inch. This one is now 10.5 inches. So I definitely want to make more of these in the future. I'm really happy with how it was to use them. It was not, I liked the feeling of using them. I liked the way that they washed the dishes. I was just really happy with how they worked. And I think that they, you know, washed and dried nicely. They're still in really nice shape. And I think they're so pretty. They just make me so happy to use them. So I definitely want to make more of these. I'm really happy with the yarn as well. I think it worked really well. I didn't know how the 25% acrylic makeup would affect the use of this dishcloth, but I think it works great. So I definitely want to make more, but probably when I do make more, I will do a couple more rounds just so that they're a little bit bigger once they're washed and dried as well. It's still a good size, but I think I would prefer it to be just a tad bit bigger. So I just wanted to give you an update on that because I was curious myself about how they would wear, and I wondered if maybe some of you might wonder about that as well. Okay, on to my works in progress. The first one I'll try to go over quickly because it's been a work in progress for a long time and I haven't made a ton of progress on it, but it is being held in one of my bags that I sewed myself, and it is one of the projects from my Make 9 board that I am hosting the Make 9 2024 Mal again this year. And for my own personal board, I will have links to, or I'll have details in the description box about that make along if you're not familiar with it. But anyway, this is on my board and it is called the Triangle Garter Wrap. And it is a free pattern by Purl Soho, but I am modifying it by using lace weight yarn instead of fingering weight yarn. And I am continuing the pattern, reducing my stitches by knitting 2 together every row now, so that my final shawl will be a square that I intend to fold in half and wear doubled over, kind of. So similar to the half and half triangles wrap, also by Purl Soho, but this is just done in a different construction. You don't do short rows for this. I'm just knitting garter stitch, and for the first half of the shawl or wrap, I increased every row, and now I am just decreasing every row. I'm using 4 different colors. The first color is Knit Picks Aloft in white, and then Plover. Once I switched to this natural bear color is when I started decreasing my stitches. So, ooh, I'm so close to losing those stitches. Anyway, you can see now that I've started to square it off here. And I'm reducing my stitches every row. And there is a progress keeper on there marking where I was last time, so I've only done about 1.5 inches of progress on this, not a ton. But I have kept plugging along on it little by little, just not a lot. But each row takes me 12 minutes to knit. So even putting in a little bit of time into this, you know, it still takes a lot. Like there's at least an hour's worth of work. No, probably a couple hours of work I've put into it. I just don't have a lot of, you know, there's not a lot to show for it. Anyway, this yarn that I'm using right now is just, it's not Knit Picks, it's just a bear yarn that I used to, when I used to dye yarn, I ordered just bear mohair, and that's what this is. But it's the same makeup of the Knit Picks Aloft, which is 72% Super Kid mohair and 28% silk. This will be the last color that I eventually will end with, and it is in the Oat colorway. The needles that I'm using for this are US 5 3.75 millimeter needles. Okay, my next work in progress is another shawl that I've been working on for a long time, and it's also being held in this bag that I sewed myself. And it is another shawl that is on my Make 9 board. And I'm also changing a lot of things for this one. Well, not a lot, but a few things. So this is it is an Italian winter shawl, which is a free design by an Italian knitter, Francesca. And I am modifying this pattern because I am using fingering weight yarn held double. The original pattern calls for worsted to Aran weight yarn, I believe. And I'm also eliminating the eyelet rows in this pattern. I am marling 2 strands of fingering weight yarn together using up the yarn that I used, that I had left over after I made my Ariana cardigan. And I have actually worked through almost all of that yarn. I'm on my very last skein of that yarn left over from my Ariana cardigan. So anyway, here it is. It's just a super simple garter stitch shawl. It does have a beautiful I-cord edging along all the edges, which is so nice. I love that part of it. I am just using up what I have, using the Russian join method when I change my colors, and just going until I run out of yarn. Most of this yarn is Knit Picks Palette, which is fingering weight, non-superwash, 100% Peruvian Highland wool, and lots of colors. I think I have them listed in the description box below. But the Ice Lily and cream colors were the very last colors that I used in my Ariana cardigan. And when the Ice Lily ran out, that was where I thought I would end my shawl, but it just wasn't big enough to what I wanted. So I have now started using some more Knit Picks palette that I just have in my stash, but it's not actually leftovers from the sweater. It's just, or the cardigan, it's just what I have in my stash. So now I've just started adding in this black color, which I didn't actually use in the Ariana cardigan. I did use a black color, and it's shown up here, but I had 2 different yarns that were Yarns Brunswick. Now I can't remember, but anyway, there were 2 different yarns that were also fingering weight, non-superwash wool. So I have black in this already, but it wasn't Knit Picks black, but anyway. I have several different colors. Well, I have a lot of these colors in full skein still in my stash, so I'm going to be working through those until I'm happy with the size, basically. This beautiful Progress Keeper was gifted to me by Tracy of Grizzly Knits, so that's marking where I was last time I recorded, so I've made several inches of progress on this, so that's great. It's so warm. Right now it's warm here, and so it's not, you know, it doesn't feel very comfortable for me to have it close to my skin right now, but I know that in the winter it's going to be so nice to have this shawl. That's my purpose in making it, is I want it to be a shawl that I can wrap up in first thing in the morning when I'm chilly in the winter time. So that's working up great. I have another garter stitch shawl at this point. It won't always be garter stitch. It does have some lace details in it eventually, but it's being held in this super cute bag from Joy in the Stitches. Trisha runs that business. And I am knitting a shawl for a friend of mine named Eva. I am knitting the Odyssey shawl, which is another free pattern, this one by Joji Locatelli. Here is a picture of it. The original pattern calls for DK weight yarn. I'm again holding fingering weight yarn double for this one, using yarn that Eva purchased and then gifted or gave to me so that I would, she asked me if I would knit her a shawl using this yarn that she purchased. It is Yarn Bee Authentic hand-dyed yarn, which is 100% superwash merino wool in the Hibiscus Palm colorway. Here are the cakes of that yarn. And I had originally decided to hold this yarn double because I figured that this yarn would pool. The way that it's dyed, there's big sections of the different colors, and I didn't want it to pool, so I wanted to hold the 2 colors together to give it more of a marled look. So I started off holding the yarn intentionally, starting with the yarn, you know, so the colors wouldn't be matching. So I have one section of the teal color and one section of the wine color held together. And I was just working up. The first section of this shawl is a lot of garter stitch, so I'm still in that section. But somehow the yarn started matching up perfectly. I don't know how that happened, but maybe you can see that about right here, the two yarn cakes started matching up perfectly and the colors were changing at the exact same time, and I was starting to get a little bit of pooling. So there was a couple of rows where there was all gold and then all wine and then all teal, and I really don't want that look. So I just cut my yarn so that one of them can be offset from the other and the color distribution will be more of a marled look. I don't know how that happened, but I guess, you know, the yarns just aren't perfectly matching, and so eventually they did match up. And I thought, for a while, I thought, well, I'll just continue knitting and it'll eventually work itself out, but I went for several rows and it was lining up and it wasn't changing fast enough for my opinion. I didn't want it to keep matching up for too long. Anyway, I have a progress keeper on there, which was from a yarn set, a yarn kit that I got from Emily Clausen of the Yarn Brewery. It's so pretty. And that's marking where I was last time. So a few inches of progress on this one. I am using US 8 5mm needles for this project, which might be the original. I don't think I went down in needle size for this, which hopefully won't be a problem as far as my, yeah, it is the original, so hopefully it won't be a problem running out of yarn because my gauge is, I'm sure, looser than what it should be. I haven't actually measured it. But anyway, this is obviously very simple right now. I need to get to about 150, or I think a little less than 150 stitches. And I just counted my stitches and I'm at like 120 maybe, something around there. So a little bit more of this garter stitch section before I get into the first lacy section, which you can see there. So that's another project that's really easy at this point to work on. So with those 3 shawls that I've just shown you, I've tried to do every 3 days I work on one of those shawls for a chunk of time so that I can continue to make a little bit of progress on each of them, slowly but surely. Okay, one more project that I shared with you, no, a couple more projects that I shared with you last time. These are just a pair of socks that I'm working on, being held in this sweet bag that I got from another viewer of this channel named Nicole. And it is made by Stitchin' You Bags, and I am making a pair of socks for my husband's grandmother. Also, this yarn was gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Nikki. Now I'm questioning myself, but I did make a note of it to make sure that I wouldn't forget. Yes, it's right. Gifted to me by Nikki. So this yarn is super cool. I'm loving how it's working up. This yarn is by King Cole. It's called Zigzag 4-ply suitable for socks, it says right here on the tag. And it's in the Frappuccino colorway. It is fingering weight, 75% superwash wool, 25% nylon. And yeah, I think the colors in this are so fun. I just love how it's working up. Last time I recorded, I had just finished the cuff, so I cast on 60 stitches using US 0.2mm needles. I did 2x1 ribbing for 20 rounds, and then I just did plain stockinette for the legs. I ended up doing 57 rounds for the leg, which is kind of a random number, but that's what it is. And then I did the heel, slip stitch heel flap using a mini that I got from another viewer of this channel named Joy. That mini came from a mini set that was dyed by Autumn and Indigo. So anyway, I thought that that color looked nice with the other colors in this yarn. And I have just finished the gusset decreases. So now this is my nice, easy, mindless project that I can work on the go. So that is that. That's a really easy and nice project to have when I need something that is mindless. Okay, last time I shared with you that I had started a new Scrappy crochet blanket, and I have made a couple more flower motifs. So I was inspired by both Sandra of Cherry Heart, the Cherry Heart podcast, and by Kay Linton of the Crazy Sock Lady podcast. They're both working on some blankets kind of similar to this. Sandra's is crocheted, but Kay Linton's is actually hand quilted English paper piecing. But anyway, I talked more about that in my last episode if you're curious about my inspiration. But anyway, I decided to make a pretty flower hexie blanket. Last time I shared that I had already made 2 flower motifs, and now I've made 2 more. I'm using fingering weight yarn scraps, and I'm following a pattern of my own. I have a tutorial here on YouTube, which I will link to in the description box below, showing how I make these hexagons and how I join them. In that pattern, I change my colors every 3 rounds to match this blanket that is behind me. That's the blanket I was working on in the video. Anyway, I changed my colors. I have 3 different colors in each hexagon in that original video. But for mine, I am just making my hexagons in a solid color. And I'm joining them like this so that they make these fun flower motifs. And here are the 2 that I have finished since I recorded last. I think they're so fun. I just finished this one this morning. So I just love how they are looking. I'm so excited about this. And then my plan is then to use a natural bare yarn to join all of the motifs together. And I think it's going to be so pretty in a blanket someday, but it'll be a long-term project. I'm using a 2.75 millimeter hook. And that is what I share in the video as well, I believe. I'm sure. I just wanted to go over again how much yarn it takes. So the center of the motif only takes 2 grams of yarn to make one of the hexagons. Then the second round takes a little over 13 grams, and the final round takes a little less than 25 grams. So it doesn't take a ton of yarn to make these, and it's perfect for using up scraps. And they're so much fun. I'm enjoying the process of these so much, and I'm so excited now to go grab another combo of yarn to make a new one. That's so much fun. So I just wanted to give an update on that project. Okay, I have started 2 new projects. The first one is being held in this sweet bag that I won from Emily Clausen, again, of Salt City Knits or Yarn Brewery. And this was made by Susan of Delightful Works. And here is a project similar to this one in a few ways. First off, the yarn that I'm using was also gifted to me by Isabella. It's the same line of yarn, so it is I Love This Cotton. It's in this pretty green color, which is called Apple Green. And this one is 100% cotton. And worsted weight again. The pattern that I am making is the Rhoda Sleeveless Top by Irene Lynn. And I think this pattern is so beautiful. I am enjoying making this so much. But again, I did not do a gauge swatch, so that's similar to this. I went down a needle size to US 5 instead of US 6, which the original pattern called for. So I'm using US 5 3.75 millimeter needles. I originally intended to make the size 2, but I'm going down to size 1 because my gauge is still too loose. And anyway, hope it works out. Because again, I didn't do a gauge swatch. Anyway, I have just made, so this one again is knit from the top down, but it's not a yoke construction like this. I want to see if I can find a picture of it on the pattern. Yeah, right on the front here. Oh, I think it's so cool. I love the looks of this pattern so much. I think it's so much fun. Anyway, so the way that it's constructed is you knit the top section of the back first, and then you pick up the side sections here and knit those, but I've only just completed the first section of the back. So that is what I've done so far. I think it's so much fun. This pattern is really fun to make. Not too hard, really. I mean, it's not, I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. There's some cabling in it. There's some yarn overs, of course, to make these big holes, but it's really fun and it's not too difficult, I don't think. But I'm loving it, how it's looking so far. I think it's so beautiful. And the color I think is really interesting too. I don't have anything like this in my wardrobe, this color, but I think it will go with other things in my wardrobe easily. So I'm excited about this one. So I'm now ready to pick up for one of the front strappy sections. So I'm excited to continue to work on that. All right, my last work in progress that I have started is another baby blanket. They're just things that I have to have on the go at all times, it seems. I always want a baby blanket on the go. So I checked out a book from my local library that was called Mosaic Crochet by Esme Crick, I believe. Yes, that's right. I had to return it to my library. It was due back, so I don't have it to share with you. But anyway, I figured out the pattern, so I know the pattern now, and I didn't have to have the book, so that is fine. But I'll probably check it out again in the future and hopefully share with you down the road. But anyway, I am using a 5.5 millimeter hook. And the pattern that I am making is called Floating Points Throw. And here it is. Both of the yarns that I'm using were also gifted to me. I hope I remember rightly. I'm pretty sure that, oh, I hope I've got this right. I'm so sorry if I have this wrong, but I'm pretty sure that the Knit Picks Brava was from Kim. I hope that's right. I need to write this down like on the label. I have on some of my yarn that I've been gifted, but anyway. This is Knit Picks Brava worsted weight, which is 100% acrylic yarn, premium acrylic yarn, worsted weight, and this colorway is called Cherry Speckle. So it's super fun. So that's the main color I'm using. And then the other yarn I'm using was also gifted to me by a viewer of this channel named Mickey, but it has no label on it, so I don't know any information about it, but I can just tell that it is also worsted weight, 100% acrylic, and it just goes so well with the Knit Picks Brava yarn. So I wanted to pair those together to make this blanket. And this is, again, it's Mosaic Crochet, which I haven't done a ton of. I have done some Mosaic Crochet in the past, but I've never crocheted a blanket using Mosaic Crochet. So it's been fun to play with this. I have modified this one as well. I started making it according to the original pattern, but it turned out too wide for a baby blanket. It was according to the measurements. I was on gauge with the measurements, but I just wasn't happy. It turned out quite wide, like quite like this wide. And I thought maybe I could turn on its end and make that be the length, but I thought it was almost too long even to work for a baby blanket. So I am only doing a total of 6 motifs across. You can see on this row I've got 6 of those circle motifs going across, and then every other row is like 5 full and then 2 half ones, as you can see. I've also modified the actual motif. So the original motif is supposed to have a total of 6 rows of this contrast color, or 6 bars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 I only have, but it's supposed to have 6. It's supposed to have 2 of this middle-sized bar in each motif. But then the motif looked more egg-shaped, more oval-shaped, and I wanted mine to be a little closer to circle-shaped motifs, if that makes sense. So I've shortened them by 4, it actually ends up being 4 rounds, or 4 rows, I'm sorry. 4 rows I take out of the pattern repeat. So it's all done. The majority of the stitches are single crochet, but this book is actually written in UK terms, but anyway, it's single crochet US terms, and then you do a kind of an elongated double crochet stitch here. It's called something different. I think it's called a mosaic crochet stitch or something like that, but that kind of fills in the gap between the motifs. I'm enjoying this process of making this. It's a lot of fun. It does curl up, as you can see on the corner here, but it does have a border on the end. When you're all done, you go around and add a border. So I'm hoping that that will make everything lay nicely when it's done. I think I'll do a total of 6. I think I'll do a total of 6 like repeats of the pattern. So I have 2 so far. I think I'll do 4 more, but I'll see. I'll see how it goes. So anyway, that is my last work in progress. I almost forgot to share this huge box of yarn that I got in the mail. So if you've watched for a while, you know that over the years, even for many times, as you've seen throughout the different projects that I've been working on, I have been gifted yarn by viewers of this channel, and booklets and bags and lots of goodies. So many times by different viewers. And once again, I received a box in the mail that I was not expecting from a viewer of this channel named Ellen. And it is packed full of beautiful yarn, and I want to share with you what she sent my way. So we have a couple of kits. Oh, now where did I put her card? Here it is, because she told me where these came from. She used to be a member of Knit Stars in Tulsa and got a few patterns from them. So here is one of them. So it comes with both the yarn and then a pattern. So this one, the pattern is called Hotline Bling. There's a picture of it. It actually comes with this hank of yarn and also a little mini. And the yarn is TSC Art Yarns Impress, 52% silk, 48% cotton, and then the little bedazzle skein as well. Here's another kit for this starlet poncho type thing. It looks like there's both a knit and crochet version, perhaps. Looks like it. Yes, maybe that's the case. Yeah, that's the case for the other one as well. This comes with 2 hanks of yarn and this pretty red glittery or sparkle yarn. And it is Knit Collage Starlet, 100% silk plied with lurex. 100 grams for each skein, and each skein is 220 yards. I will be gifting the majority of this yarn to those that are participating in the Make 9 Make Along, either this year or next or whenever I get around to it. I have so much yarn that I gift periodically throughout the year, but you know, I just don't know how long it will take me to get to this particular yarn. But 3 huge hanks of yarn by Bartlett Yarns. This is 100% wool yarn, and it is in the Lilac Heather colorway. It's a 2-ply, 210 yards for 4 ounces, so I believe that would be worsted weight. So pretty. 3 more. Here, I'll take these out of the plastic bag that they're in. There are 3 of these though. That is Barocco Folio yarn, 65% superfine alpaca and 35% rayon. 50 grams per skein, 219 yards per skein, so I suppose this would be about fingering weight. Color number 4518. 3 of these in the same color, so pretty. There is 1 cake, I guess, of Schoppel yarn. It is a lace ball, so it's lace weight. Color number 2079. It's 100 grams. Made in Germany. 75% superwash wool, 25%. I'm sorry, 75% virgin wool, which is superwash, but then 25% nylon. And I've had this colorway before that I've gifted as a prize, but I don't think it was lace weight last time. But anyway, very pretty. Oh, this one is so fun, by Pineapple Yarn, who does not die anymore. And she used to have a podcast, and I miss her so much. Marina. I just absolutely loved seeing her projects that she was working on. But anyway, so cool to have this sock set from her when she was dying. And it is a, let's see, it was made in 2019. I think she had a club, so it was a glow club, I guess, is what it was from. This is called Brown Sugared Fig. 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon. 50 grams for the main skein, and then a 20-gram mini, so a total of 70 grams of yarn. It's so gorgeous. There's a skein of Heritage Cascade Yarns sock yarn, which is 75% superwash merino wool, 25% nylon in this beautiful blue color. Color number 5603. Then there are 5 skeins of this Deborah Norville Collection Serenity Chunky Weight yarn, which is 100% acrylic, I believe. It's a bulky weight. Why can't I find that? Yes, 100% fine acrylic, it says, and the color is called Red Bayou. But I have 5 of these. Let's see, there is a Jagger spun, I believe it would be pronounced, or maybe Jagger, but I think it's Jagger spun. And it is from Springvale, Maine. It's 90% superwash wool, 10% mulberry silk, and it'd be fingering weight in the Sangria colorway. I have another plastic bag here that I need to open up. There are 4 skeins of this yarn, which is super cool. Debbie Bliss Milano, 40% wool, 28% polyamide, 18% silk, 8% polyester, and 6% acrylic in the color 49002. It is 50 grams for 103 yards. So again, it'd be a worsted weight, I suppose. And there's 4 skeins of this. That's really fun. And then there's one little skein. I don't know, this is odd. Let's see, it's like paper. Let's see, it's called Hill Country Weavers Habu Root Sizing Silk in the red colorway. It is made in Japan. I don't know. 88.5 yards. It's a 0.5 gram. That doesn't make sense. Is it really that little? I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I'm curious about this one. If anybody has any ideas of how you would use this or what you'd use it for, let me know. Okay. Oh, I've got a couple more kits. I should have done those all together. This one is called Verbena and comes with a hank of yarn from Trailhead Yarn, 100% wet spun linen, sport weight. That's cool. And one more for Fruity Loops. That fun, ombre colored yarn. It is a jumbo skein apple tree plush fingering, 100% superwash merino wool. It has 560 yards in that cake. All right, then there are 2 skeins of, it looks like maybe they're partial skeins, so I'll probably put those into some baby blankets. They are Baby Bee Yarns, Sweet Delights. They are both a DK weight, 60% acrylic and 40% polyamide. The gray color is called Flannel, and the brown color is Chocolate. There are two probably partial, they're pretty full, but they probably have a little bit used out of them, but they don't have any labels on them. I would assume they're kind of a chunky, bulky weight, and I assume they're acrylic. Then there is one skein of Lion Brand Tweed Stripes in the Caramel colorway, and this is a bulky weight, 100% acrylic as well. I'm sure, yes, that's right. There are 3 skeins of Lion Brand Yarn Nature's Choice Organic Cotton, worsted weight, 100% organically grown cotton in the Pecan colorway. So those are fun. One, I'm pretty sure partial skein of Yarn Bee Lace Weight in the Citrus Grove colorway, 80% acrylic, 10% mohair, and 10% wool. Very fun colors in that. And lastly, there is a skein of Yarn Bee, the label is covered up, but I think it says Merino Bulky Wool Blend. It's 70% wool and 30% acrylic in the Alabaster colorway. And this is a bulky weight as well. So that's everything from Ellen. Thank you so much, Ellen. I appreciate your generosity so much. I'll use up some of these as, you know, especially that partial skeins, I'll use those up so gratefully. And then I'll also be gifting, you know, the kits and things I'll probably be gifting as prizes, and some of the other goodies as we continue to give prizes away for those participating in the Make 9 Mal this year and next year, and for as many years as I continue to do that make along. So stay tuned to see those prizes go out eventually. Thank you again, Ellen, so much. I really appreciate your giving me all of these wonderful goodies. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the things that I've been working on, and I hope that you are enjoying the things that you're working on as well. I hope that you are all doing really well. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.